What's up, you mad dogs? This is my full card prediction and breakdown video for this week's UFC Fight Night. Strickland versus Hernandez. What a mad matchup we have in store for the main event this week. I'm looking forward to this fight. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And man, I'm looking forward to getting the pick right on this one. 0-3 for predictions on main events so far this year. I must say I'm a little bit disappointed in myself. I'm disappointed I didn't go with Volk. I'm disappointed I didn't go with Bautista. But it is what it is. We're going to shift the momentum this week. We're going to get this one right. So, whoever I'm picking in this main event, they're going to win, okay? Just know that. Anyways, let's jump into the card. We've got a fun night of fights to back the card up. A couple of short notice replacements. A couple of short notice add-ins. And a couple of fun matchups just in general. 14 fights in total, which is pretty crazy. I mean, fuck. I feel like we're going to get a few finishes on this card too. I feel like there is a lot of finishing potential here. And we have, quite the potential to see a couple of exciting fights. And man, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Because we've got a bit to break down here. We're not breaking down Juliana Miller on our own. We're breaking down Juliana Miller versus Carli Judice. For this fight, I'm going to side with Carli Judice. I think she's going to get the knockout within the first two rounds. To put it simply, she's the better striker by a long shot. Great with great with the straight shots. Great with the kicks. Good power in the hands. 5 wins, 5 KOs. That's 2 in the UFC as well. So pretty good prospect on the rise here for the women's division. She's coming up against Juliana Miller, who's a very forward, in-your-face style kind of fighter. Just on the pressure, non-stop. We'll mix in the grappling here and there. I mean, she can do that here, but I feel like Carli Judice has shown that she's got decent takedown defense and the ability to get up from the ground if it goes there. And I just feel like every time this is on the feet, Judice is going to find Miller's chin and just land big peppering shots on her, Miller does have a TKO loss to Luana Santos, so that doesn't look too great given that Santos is a grappler. So, I mean, Carli Judice, round 1 knockout. I'm going to say that's the way it goes down within the first 2 rounds to be safe. But I'm going to stick with round 1. Carli Judice, I think that's a pretty straightforward pick for this one. On to the next fight. We're looking at Jordan Leavitt versus Yadier Del Valle. Yadier Del Valle, in his last fight, I thought I was a genius picking him to win by submission against Isaac Dalgarian. Before all the betting lines dropped, before the UFC betting scandal unraveled, I thought I was some kind of genius. No one was taking him to win against Isaac Dalgarian. Such a good prospect. Not even in the UFC anymore. Goodbye. Anyways, on to this fight. Jordan Leavitt is a very good wrestler. He looks for control. He's got good takedowns, good entries. Works good on top. Has good top pressure once he gets there. But he's coming up against quite the physical guy in Yadier Del Valle. And he is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So I feel like he's got the grappling to deal with Jordan Leavitt. We've seen him have problems with people who do have that grappling ability and submission ability in the past. He does have a submission loss to Pimblett, and he has a submission loss to Chase Hooper. I feel like we're going to see some pretty good scrambles in this fight. I feel like Jordan Leavitt will have early success in the first round. But I'm going to say that Yadier gets the submission within 2 rounds. I'm going to say he gets it done in the second round once Leavitt starts to slow down a little bit and have less control on the fight. Maybe we could see a world where Yadier tries to keep this one on the feet, but I definitely feel like Leavitt's going to be able to get to those hips. We did see Dalgarian get right to the hips of him. I don't know if there was some kind of injury there. I actually didn't really look into that. Probably should have. Is what it is. But anyways, I can see Jordan Leavitt landing some takedowns, especially early on. He's going to chase that control. I think he knows that he's not really going to be able to stand with this guy on the feet. Not to say that Yadier is some crazy striker. He actually was a grappler before a striker, but just the physicality, you know? But I'm going to say that Yadier gets the submission. I'm going to say he gets it done in round 2. And that's going to be my pick for this fight. On to the next one. Okay, this is one of our short notice replacements in Phil Rowe, coming up against Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani. I can't remember who he was supposed to fight. Supposed to fight someone else. But this is more of a step up to who he was supposed to fight. Phil Rowe, he's been around. He's a long, rangy striker with good power in the hands. He's got good BJJ, but he also is happy to pull guard, you know, and lose rounds sitting on the back, not really taking a chance not taking a risk to get back up to his feet and that. I feel like Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani is going to win this fight by finish. He's coming off his Contender Series win, which was a round 1 knockout. He landed a head kick, which wobbled the dude, and he followed up with a massive punch that just put him out cold. It's quite an impressive performance, and then when I went and looked at his record after the fight, I see, he's got more submissions than anything. So I was surprised to see that, because that was some pretty impressive striking. And watching back some of his other fights, he seems to be pretty fair on, pretty decent on the feet. I don't know what word I was trying to fucking say there. Pretty decent on the feet, and he has the submission threat too. I feel like he's going to be able to get the win here over Phil Rowe. Phil Rowe's only been knocked out once. That's the only finish he's got on his record by a loss. But I feel like we can see another one here, especially with the short notice replacement. I think it's about 1 or 2 weeks maybe. I can just see Jean-Paul taking advantage of this situation against someone who just really hasn't hit the ceiling that was expected of him, you know? And just from his recent performances, I know that his last fight with Young KO, that was a pretty tough fight. That guy's just non-stop in your face. But I just feel like the finishing ability here of Jean-Paul is pretty good. He's got a lot of first-round finishes, 1 in the second, and I think 1 decision. So that's pretty good. He's not 1-0, as you can see here. Obviously, that's just what the UFC have on their website, because he's only won 1 fight in the UFC, but yep, is what it is. Jean-Paul Lebosnoyani by knockout, submission, 1 of the 2, inside of 2 rounds. That's going to be my pick for this fight. On to the next one. Ramiz Brahimaj versus Punahele Soriano. When I was finishing my breakdown yesterday, this one just popped up and I didn't even know it was on there. So, nice little surprise. I feel like Ramiz Brahimaj is going to win this fight by submission in round number 2. That's going to be my call for this fight. He's a very dangerous submission grappler. Good guillotine, good submissions. Improving on the feet too. Improving on the feet. He's been looking good on the feet. He landed a big head kick in his last fight against Austin Vandervoort, which really cracked him open, cut him open, and then Vandervoort got the takedown, but eventually fell into a guillotine. We did see those holes in the wrestling, or not holes, but he was held down a bit by Austin Vandervoort, especially in the first round as well. But he did find the guillotine eventually. And when he was on the feet, he made it count. Now, Punahele Soriano, he's another one of these fighters that just really hasn't done a whole lot in the sport. You know, he's never looked that crazy good. Like, you never watch one of his fights and go, oh, wow, this guy could really be something, you know? He's got powerful hands, and he can wrestle. He can get takedowns, and he can control you on the ground. But he does slow down, and I feel like that's where he's going to find problems here. I feel like he will find early success here with his physical frame and power. I feel like he can get some early takedowns, control the fight. That's what he did in his last fight against Nikolay Veretennikov. A lot of control time, just tried to smudge fest it out. I just don't see him doing that for 3 rounds here against Ramiz Brahimaj. I feel like the submission threat on the ground is too much. And I feel like Ramiz is really improving on the feet. It's not to say that Punahele is some crazy striker. He's just got good power in the hands, you know? Big overhands and that. So I feel like Ramiz Brahimaj is probably better everywhere here, except for probably the wrestling. Like I said, I feel like Punahele will get that early takedown success, maybe a bit of control time in round 1. And then as he slows down, I'm seeing Ramiz Brahimaj whip up a guillotine submission, make that 2 in a row. Thank you very much. Ramiz by sub, that's my pick for this fight. Next fight of the night, we're looking at Nora Cornolle versus Joselyne Edwards. I thought this was great matchmaking because these two girls have fought before. I only had to watch one women's fight to break this fight down, and that was their fight before in the UFC a few years ago. I was pretty happy with that. They should do that more often. I'm just going to put that out there. Anyways, on to the fight. Nora Cornolle versus Joselyne Edwards. Cornolle won the last fight by decision. Watching it back, Joselyne Edwards was really able to take her down quite religiously and hold her down for moments. Cornolle did well to get back up to the feet and work her striking. She was definitely better on the feet, had more power, more physical. Joselyne Edwards is decent though. She's on a pretty good win streak at the moment. 3 finishes in a row. That's decent for a women's MMA fighter. Nothing to look down on. She's got a clean striking style, and she does have the submission threat as well. Obviously, happy to grapple. She did it the whole fight in the last fight. Started to slow down a lot to the end of the fight. It was a close fight watching it back, but I suppose you could give it to Nora Cornolle on the damage, and I suppose that's what they did. It was in France though, and that was a hometown fight for her. So I don't know, but Joselyne Edwards, I'm actually going to take her to win this rematch. I feel like she can make the adjustments to find better, more dominant position from those takedowns when she gets them. Because I feel like with how easy she was landing them, she landed quite a few in that last fight. I feel like she's just going to be able to do that again. And I think with the experience under her belt now, I feel like she's going to be able to make the right adjustments and hold those dominant positions once she gets there. Cornolle is getting a little bit older now as well. So I just feel like Joselyne Edwards is going to do well and coast their way to a 29-28, maybe a split decision win for Joselyne Edwards. That's going to be my pick for this fight. Won't spend too much time on it. Next fight of the night, we're looking at Alden Coria versus Louis Gurule. Now, I'm going to side with Alden Coria here. I'm actually going to take him to win this fight by decision. I could see a TKO or a knockout, but I'm going to side with the decision here. It is flyweight. Now, both these guys, they're willing to throw. Gurule's a little bit small for the division, and he just really hasn't done... Since getting into the UFC, just hasn't looked that fantastic. You know, he's well-rounded there. He can get his takedowns. He throws powerful shots. Does throw a lot into his strikes. So when he does land it, it is quite powerful, but not enough to like put you down or put you out. Whereas Coria, he's a lot more rangy. He's going to be a lot taller here. And yeah, look, 3-inch reach. I mean... It's not crazy, but I think it's going to make a difference here in this fight, especially with the height advantage. I think his rangy strikes and combos, they're really going to be able to do work here on Gurule. And he can fare in the grappling too. Even if Gurule wants to mix in the wrestling, he showed in the Ode Osbourne fight that he's not that great at holding fighters down. Osbourne does get controlled a lot in some of his fights on the ground, so Gurule wasn't able to do that. And I feel like Coria... He's got decent grappling, and I feel like it's going to be good enough to fare with Gurule here. If it does go to the ground, I feel like we'll get some good scrambles. But for the most part, I think this will be a stand-up fight. And I think Coria is going to win based off of more volume, more damaging shots, and yeah, that's about it. That's about it. More volume and more damaging shots. I feel like he can cut him up. Using those straights, big straight combos, maybe a few kicks here and there, you know, all the goods, all the goods. I feel like this is going to be a pretty fun fight too. This could be a scrap. Flyweights going to war, you know, on the prelims. Classic fucking fight night shit, boys. It's the goods. This is what we come here for, you know. This is what we come here for. So I'm looking forward to this one. Alden Coria is going to be the pick. And I think he gets it done by decision. Maybe a TKO. On to the next fight. Oh, this was tough, man. This is actually tough for me to pick. Osbourne versus Alibi Idris. I'm going to side with Alibi Idris here. This was tough for me to do. I don't mind Osbourne, man. And I feel like his record doesn't reflect like how decent he actually is because he's got a very inconsistent record. His only recent win was to the last guy we were just talking about, Gurule, where he knocked him out in the second round. Something about is very fucking fast, good power. He knocks down a lot of the fighters that he fights, but he fumbles the finish, man. You know? He fumbles the finish, and then he just stops throwing or like doesn't. It's like he loses confidence in the moment. Even though he's dropped the fighter, it's like he loses confidence in the moment and just can't get back going, you know? Can't keep the momentum going off of that. I've seen him do it so many times, and that's just why it was so hard for me to not pick him to win this fight because of that power and the counters. Alibi Idris is decent. He's mostly a striker, but he mixes in the grappling too. I feel like he's not an elite grappler, just from what we've seen in his Ultimate Fighter fights, and then obviously the debut, which he lost. But that was to Joseph Morales, who I think is pretty good, and he's a very good grappler. So I feel like there was no chance that Alibi was going to put a grappling pace on him ever. Whereas Osbourne, he's shown holes in the grappling in the past. You know, he's got 4 submission losses on the record. I mean, he could counter one of those weird spinning shots that Idris throws. You know, he throws a lot of wild stuff like flying knees, spinning attacks, wild kicks, all that. He's got pretty fun striking. He's a pretty fun fighter to watch. I could see dropping him here. You know, I'm going to say that actually wins the first round, maybe drops him with something. The speed is a lot for fighters to get used to, especially when they first step in there with him. A lot of the time they struggle with that speed, and I feel like that could happen early here. But I think even if he drops him, I feel like he's going to fumble that finish. I feel like Idris is going to be able to pick up, start landing some takedowns. He will chain them. If he doesn't get the first one, it doesn't mean he's going to give up. He will chain them together. And he throws good combos with his striking too. Like I said, he throws some wild shit, spinning shit here and there. But he combines it all together pretty well. So I'm going to take Alibi Idris to win this fight. I'm going to say he gets it done by decision. Possibly a submission threat too. 4 submission losses on the record of Osbourne. And I do see grappling being needed here for Idris to get the win. I don't think he needs to just grapple, but I feel like he needs to mix it in and have that threat there just to stifle Osbourne's game, you know? And I think he will do that. And I think he's going to be able to work his way to a decision win and possibly maybe pick up a submission. But he's not a crazy submission guy, so maybe not. That's why I'm going to decide with the decision. That's going to be my pick for this fight. That'll bring us to the feature prelim of the night. This is going to be a brawl, I reckon. Chidi Njokuani versus Carlos Leal. Now, Chidi bang bang. He's a very tall, rangy, powerful Muay Thai striker. Coming up against a forward pressure, in your face, non-stop pressure, throwing wild shit, leaving his chin out there in Carlos Leal. He's coming off a bad knockout loss to the Kung Fu King. Why can't I think of his name? Muslim Salikov. Coming off a bad knockout loss to that. Before that, this is why I'm going to pick Chidi Njokuani to win this fight by brutal knockout in the first round. That's going to be my pick for this fight. Just put that out there now. The fight before the Salikov fight, Carlos Leal got a round 1 knockout win over Alex Morono. It was a standing TKO up against the fence where the pressure just got to Morono. But in that fight, watching that fight back, Morono was landing some heat here and there on Leal. Some absolute fucking heat. And Morono's not the striking level of a Chidi and Njokuani. Okay? Now I'm just going to say that range that he has, the ability to hold range with his teeps, straights, big knees up the middle, I can see Carlos Leal running straight into one of those straight counters, a massive knee up the middle, something like that. And I think Chidi and Njokuani is going to put him out cold here. I feel like that's pretty straightforward, to be honest. I'm pretty confident on this pick. I could see a world where Leal just keeps the pressure on. Chidi does tend to break under a lot of pressure over time. So if this fight does go into the second round, then I'm going to start to get a little bit worried here. But I just feel like Leal's chin is way too hittable. Maybe he makes the adjustments after the Salikov fight. But I don't know, man. I don't know. He's been fighting like that all this time. Why is he going to change it now? And if he's going to run into one of them straights of Chidi, he's going out cold. He's going palms up. Okay? Simple as that. Chidi and Njokuani by knockout in the first round. That's going to be my pick for the feature prelim of the night. Which brings us to the main card. Zach Reese versus Michel Pereira. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pick Michel Pereira to win a fight again. I told myself I wouldn't do this. I told myself I wouldn't do it after the Dorcas loss. Going into this, I was initially thinking Zach Reese when I first just saw the matchup. And I was like, oh, Zach Reese will probably win that. Zach Reese got fucked up pretty bad in the first round in his last fight against Jackson McVeigh, who's not a UFC fighter. And he's very tall and good in the clinch. He was working the knees and the elbows very well in the clinch. But he was fucking Zach Reese up for that whole first round. Zach Reese ended up pulling out the submission in the second. Don't get me wrong, he didn't lose the fight, but if Jackson McVeigh's putting that kind of damage on you, what's Michel Pereira going to do to you? I know Michel Pereira's coming off a bad knockout loss to Kyle Dorcas. I don't think I'll ever forget that because I was so fucking confident that for some reason Michel Pereira would just storm him. I don't know why, because he does only have about 2 minutes of cardio in the gas tank, you know? That's why this pick's a little bit risky here. I actually looked at the odds on this one. Usually I don't look at the odds on fights before I pick them, but I looked at the odds because I was curious. I'm surprised that Michel Pereira is the favourite here. I am. Zach Reese is actually probably a pretty good underdog here, but I am going to go with Michel Pereira just based off of that last fight with Zach Reese getting really pieced up early on for a whole first round. I feel like if Michel Pereira lands something, he's really good. He's got very, very powerful body kicks. And he's got a lot of fucking power in the hands, man. He can do everything. He can submit too. I'm going to take Michel Pereira to win this fight by TKO or submission in round number 1. If it gets out of round number 1, Zach Reese probably wins this fight. A little bit different to the last one where it's like maybe. I feel like if it gets out of round 1 here, Zach Reese is probably going to win this fight. But I'm going to side with Michel Pereira. I'm going to say he gets it done in that first round by knockout or submission. I could see him cracking Zach Reese and Reese engaging in the grappling because that's what he will engage in the grappling if he's hurt. I can see Pereira really subbing him out, you know? Something like that. Or a big elbow in the clinch. Something like that. I can see Zach Reese going down here. Actually, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to say, no. We'll just stick with the finish. I was going to say submission. We'll stick with the finish. It'll be TKO or submission because Zach Reese has been knocked out twice. Knocked out by Cody Brundage, by the way. Yeah. So there's that. It was a body slam. I know. Michel Pereira is the pick for that fight. It was tough for me to do that, okay? Next fight of the night. This is the second short notice replacement in Josiah Harrell versus Jacobe Smith. I'm going to keep this one pretty short. I feel like this is too much for Josiah Harrell coming in on short notice. Jacobe Smith's a very, very good prospect. Now, he did look a bit gassed in that second round with Nico Price. I feel like that needs to be said. But his wrestling's very good. And very explosive. He's got good power in the hands. And his striking's like not bad, you know. I feel like he's going to be able to put a bit of a working here on Josiah Harrell. Now, they're both 11-0. Josiah's got a good finishing rate as well. I mean, I'm going to side with a decision here. I'm going to say Jacobe Smith gets this one done by decision. 30-27, wins all rounds, dominant top control, ground and pound. Josiah Harrell's probably training non-stop, waiting for this moment, and he's got it here. So I feel like saying that obviously any short notice fight is going to be a tough ask. With like, if you got notice in 2 weeks, I get it. But I feel like someone like this, undefeated, on the verge of breaking into the UFC, I feel like they're going to be training non-stop. You know, this is the time when they've really got to be putting all that work in. They're trying to get to the top. You got to get into the fucking big company first. And I feel like he's going to be ready for the moment, but I just don't think he's going to be able to do enough. I feel like he can stop the finish. I feel like he can avoid being finished. Trying to get the right words out there. And I've spent a lot of time on this fight now, just trying to get the right words out. Jacobe Smith by decision. Maybe I could see a submission. Probably he does have good ground and pound. He does have good ground and pound though. Fucking hell. I don't know what the fuck just happened with me then. That was crazy. Jacobe Smith by decision. That's my pick for this fight. On to the next one. Sergey Spivac versus Ante Delija. I'm taking Ante Delija. I think he's going to be way too quick here for Sergey Spivac. Now, there is the obvious grappling threat here of Spivac. He's huge. I feel like he's going to get some early clinch in like the first 3 minutes of round 1. But I think Ante is going to be able to stop the takedowns and find a moment to separate. And once he's got that open space and Spivac's a little bit tired after some clinch work and he's starting to slow down a little bit, I think the speed is going to be very fucking noticeable, and Ante Delija will put an insane combination on Spivac and put him down and get the knockout win in the first round. Now, there is an obvious risk here that Sergey does get the takedown and maybe smudge his way to a win. Possible submission. I mean, he does have good submission threats, so if he does get on top, there is going to be a worry. No doubt, because he's huge. And Ante isn't the biggest heavyweight, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Ante stops the takedowns. Maybe gets caught in a bit of a clinch here and there, but ultimately gets the space and puts the work on him. You know, put him out cold, just like that, round 1. That's going to be my pick for that fight. On to the next one. Dan Ige versus Melquizael Costa. I'm siding with Melquizael Costa here. I'm going to say he gets it done by decision. I am worried though. I am a little bit worried here for Melquizael Costa. I feel like this is a weird little matchup, you know? I feel like this is one of those strange little matchups where Dan Ige might just pull it off. You know, he might just land that fucking bomb and put him out, you know? I don't know. I don't know why I've got that feeling, because I feel like Melky is really improving a lot. He's good with his rangy shots, good distance management, really good kicks, body kicks, head kicks. Coming off that good head kick knockout in his last fight against Morgan Charrier. Very impressive. And he's going to be a lot bigger than Dan Ige here. Now, they can both grapple. They've both got good BJJ. I feel like Melk will mix in a little bit of grappling, but he's not going to rely on it, you know? He is fairly good on the feet. He's got good power in the hands. And I feel like he can play the range battle here with Ige. Ige tends to just not do enough in his fights. And that's why I just can't. There's nothing here that's going to make me pick him. Even though I've got a little bit of a weird feeling. I don't like to pick fights based off of weird feelings. Usually, sometimes I'll fall into my own little holes, but I won't be doing that here. I feel like Melquizael Costa is getting really good and he's improving seemingly every fight. And I think he can pick away here at Dan Ige for 3 rounds and pick up a 30-27 or a 29-28 win by decision. Melquizael Costa, that's going to be my pick for that fight. On to the co-main event. Is this one, like, not straightforward to anyone else? I feel like this one's pretty straightforward to me. Geoff Neal's going to win this fight by knockout. Brutal knockout in the first round. Like bad, with the hands. He's going to counter Uros Medic badly and put him out bad. Southpaw versus Southpaw. Last time Uros Medic had a Southpaws versus Southpaw matchup, that was Punahele Soriano. He got put out bad in the first round. That's not why I'm saying that he's just because it's Southpaw versus Southpaw, but it's something you can add to it. You can add that to the fact that he leaves his chin open, entering and exiting the pocket. He is a powerful striker and he's very fast. Geoff Neal is an incredibly technical boxer with big power in the hands. Geoff Neal is going to find the shot with a big counter and he's going to put him out bad. He's just technically better on the feet, technically better with the boxing. Yes, Uros Medic has that power, has that speed. Yes, Geoff Neal's coming off a knockout loss, but that's a knockout loss to Carlos Prates, guys. Come on, really? Geoff Neal wins this fight by knockout easily inside the first round. In the first 2 minutes. In the first minute, maybe. Uros Medic even got dropped by... who was it? The last guy he got it... No, not the last guy he got a win over. The guy before that. I can't even remember his name. Yeah. I just don't see this fight going any other way, really. I mean, like I said, that knockout for Geoff Neal in his last fight, that was Carlos Prates, and that was a spinning fucking elbow, guys. Geoff Neal's going to be too good. Technical boxing, way too good. He's putting Uros Medic's palms up. Medic is going palms up. And that brings us to the main event. Who have we got in the main event? I'm going to get this right this week. I can feel it. I really, really like Anthony Hernandez. I think he's a really good prospect. And he's been very impressive with the way he's risen the ranks here. And he's been very dominant in some of his performances. His last performance against Roman Dolidze was one of the biggest dog walkings I've ever seen in my life. I'm picking Sean Strickland to win this fight. And I'm going to say he gets it done by knockout inside of 3 rounds. Maybe not a clean knockout, probably a TKO. But that's what I'm going to say happens here. Sean Strickland wins this fight by TKO inside of 3 rounds. Tell me this. Who's ever held Strickland down? Apart from Usman years ago in welterweight. Who's going to hold Strickland down? Maybe Anthony Hernandez. Maybe I'll swallow my words here. We know that Strickland has good wrestling. Yes, we don't see it. He doesn't really use it. But there's a lot of signs pointing to the idea that, yes, Sean Strickland has great wrestling. Always in the gym. Great cardio. That's what makes this matchup so interesting, I think. The great cardio. Both sides have really, really good cardio. They can both put a good pace on. And this matchup is actually sick, man. Like, honestly. But I'm going to take the side of Sean Strickland in the fact that I just don't see him getting held down for 5 rounds straight. And I really don't see Anthony picking up a submission here. So I feel like the only way he does it is to do like he was doing to Roman Dolidze, Michel Pereira, you know. Now, there is one fight on Anthony Hernandez's career who was against someone who is higher in the ranks. And that was Brandon Allen. That was probably his closest fight to date, other than the fight that he lost against Kevin Holland years ago, but we won't think about that. We just like to look in the last few years, you know, what's recent, how they look in these days. Brandon Allen's up there, and that was a fairly close fight. Yes, he's a good grappler, but he's not Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland's better by a long shot than anyone that Anthony Hernandez has fought. Better, more well-rounded, just better everywhere than anyone that Anthony Hernandez has fought. Simply put, honestly. I can see Sean Strickland working the body here with his teeps, working that jab. I can see Anthony Hernandez landing takedowns. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's not going to take him down once. But I feel like Strickland has the ability to get back up and avoid consistent takedowns, you know? I feel like he's going to avoid those consistent takedowns. When he does get taken down, I think he's going to be able to work his way back up to the feet without being in danger. And I can really see him start to wear on Anthony Hernandez. We see Anthony Hernandez get cracked in almost every single one of his fights. And I can see that happening again here, especially to the body. Especially to the body. I think that needs to be set up. Maybe I don't see Strickland landing a teep and dropping Anthony Hernandez with a teep. But maybe the volume, the teeps start to get to him a little bit, which opens him up. And then bang, bang, bang. Sean Strickland throws a crazy combo with an overhand or something like that. And then, wow, now he's on ropes and he's looking cooked. I feel like that's going to happen. When I first looked at this fight, this was similar to the Michel Pereira fight. I just thought, Anthony Hernandez, for sure. But then I started actually looking into it, and I'm like, oh, wow, Anthony Hernandez hasn't really fought anyone of this level yet. Yes, he's making these people look like fucking nothing, but it's the middleweight division. Just saying. I feel like out of all the matchups in the top 5, this is probably the worst one, other than the champ. This is probably the worst one for Anthony Hernandez. So I'm going to side with Sean Strickland here. I'm going to say he gets it done by knockout, using that jab, using that teep, fucking doing work, keeping the fight on the feet for longer than the fight is on the ground. I don't think Anthony Hernandez's striking is enough to do a whole lot to Strickland damage-wise. And he doesn't have all that much power, so on the feet, I feel like Strickland's got this easy. And I think he's going to be able to be good enough to keep it there for longer than the fight is on the ground. And that's why I reckon the striking will eventually wear on Hernandez. And even though he does have that great gas tank, I see it wearing down. Them teep kicks to the body, man. I'm telling you. I'm fucking looking forward to this fight. Anyways, I'm looking forward to this fight. I'll be happy to see if Anthony Hernandez does win. I'll have to jump off a bridge if I do go 0-4 in main events for this year so far. But it's fine. It's fine. No one really cares about that anyway. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. If you've got to this point of the video, drop a like, drop a sub if you enjoyed. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much, especially if you made it to this point. You're a fucking legend. Let's age.